Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Sweat. I'm Emerson Lotzia. I'm just doing this until my Instagram modeling career takes off. And speaking of model, here I am standing next to a very handsome Jesse Cofield. But today, we're going to call you Adam.
You are welcome. I cut my hair, but this is my natural color. We are less than 3 weeks away from the start of the NHL season. Erik Karlsson, new home. Tyler Seguin, he's staying put and getting paid. We'll get to the fantasy impact of the Karlsson move with Jeff Ulrich in just a little while.
All right, Captain Canada. But first, let's focus on the task at hand. Thursday Night Football. It might not put a smile on your face, but Reed Fowler certainly can, trust me. And he's joined by Action Matt Friedman, who you can catch on the Action Network app, now available on Android and iPhone. We're going showdown for tonight's game, guys, between the Ravens and the Bengals. So, Reed, who is your captain pick for this evening? You pay 1.5 times the salary. However, ladies and gentlemen, you receive 1.5 times the DK fantasy points.
It's important.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Matt, that you have to deal with these jabronis, but I deal with them every day, so it's okay. I'm going with Alex Collins. I think AJ Green's in a tough spot, right? You'd want to go quarterback in the captain spot just because they can get you the most points, but Flacco and Dalton don't really appeal to me that much in this matchup. So I'm going to go with running back Alex Collins. We haven't seen what he could potentially do. He was big and popular coming into the season, but with that game script, he fumbled, so he sat, and that entire game in Buffalo was a complete blowout. So give me Alex Collins. Cincinnati, third most last year in giving up DK points to running backs at around 27. So give me Collins.
Action Matt, who's your captain pick tonight?
As Reed mentioned, he'd prefer to go with a quarterback, and I'm going to be chalky and go that way. Of the two, I prefer Dalton. He has the highest projection on our models. He costs just a little bit more than Flacco, and he has much more dynamic weaponry around him, and he's playing at home. So he's the guy I would go with.
I love the background. I love the setup.
He is an intelligent man. It's almost like a library.
His things smell of rich mahogany.
Lots of leather-bound books.
You can see it. Matt, who is your value pick for tonight's showdown?
It's kind of disgusting to say, but I'm going to go with Nick Boyle.
Last
week he played the most snaps. He had the most production of the tight ends for Baltimore. And the Bengals were exposed with their cover 3 defense. They allowed a slate-high 16 receptions to the position last week. They're without Vontaze Burfict, who's one of their best coverage linebackers. They don't really have a safety who can cover the linebackers, so that's where I'm looking.
Reed, do you have anything gross for us as well?
Yeah, I mean, Willie Snead, it would be mine. And again, that's not as gross as Nick Boyle. But if you look at Indy's defense, like Grant saw quite a bit. I think he saw 9 targets. So these receivers can exploit Cincinnati. Like Sean Williams got ejected quite early in that game against Indy for hitting Andrew Luck. He could have been, it's debatable if he should have been kicked out in that game. But you see that defense potentially have holes like Nick Vigil is filling in for Vontaze Burfict. So we'll see. He 11 tackles in that first game. So we'll see if he can cover, but I don't think these guys can. So Willie Snead would be my guy if you're going for a value play.
Using a defense or even a kicker in tonight's contest. Now, would that be something you might be interested in, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's defense, again, that first game can't really give you much to go off of. It could potentially be an outlier, or this Buffalo stinks. So Baltimore's defense is opportunistic, right? They have a good pass rush still. Their linebackers are quick, and they have a good secondary. So I would use Baltimore's defense. In most cases, this one, potentially not. But if I had to, I would use Baltimore's.
Yeah, this is really week 1 for the Ravens because playing the Bills just does not count. What about for you?
Buffalo ever did to Reed, though.
Yeah. Let's go defense or kicker, Matt. You feeling one tonight?
Yeah, I'm actually fine with either defense. We're projecting at Fantasy Labs for this to be a low-scoring game. And also, kicker is fine, too, especially Justin Tucker, very reliable. And he always has upside for a big game if the Ravens' offense struggles in the red zone, which is very conceivable for that to happen.
It's going to be a low-scoring game. It's Thursday Night Football. But, if you wait up until, midnight, you'll see that thrilling last drive as we do in every Thursday night game.
It's going to be terrible football. You really shouldn't watch. But definitely play contests and keep track of these guys and see what you should be doing on that front. But, boys, that's going to do it for you for at least a little while. We're going to chase and fade with the baseball guys after a little treat from Pat Mayo.
Pat Mayo here with your Thursday night hot picks for the Week 2 opener. Ravens, Bengals, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. And we've entered an interesting situation with these two teams. Are the Ravens as good as they look? Or did they just happen to play a team with less talent than a high school squad? And will the Bengals offense move quite as well when they're playing a defense that doesn't merely allow the opposing team to run right by them? Who knows? It's a conundrum, to say the least. So stick with the volume. That we can project. Well, Baltimore's run defense is pretty good. Joe Mixon's a lock to see north of 20 touches. Playing 76% of the Bengals snaps week 1, Mixon is the primary rusher, pass catcher, and definitive goal line back. So follow that volume. And on the other side of the ball, since this is a cluttered backfield, take to the air and get some John Brown in your life. Brown's coming off a touchdown in his first game as a Raven and has yet to showcase that down-the-field ability he's known for. And that can be changed against a team that will likely produce more than 0 first downs in the first half. Got to keep up on the scoreboard. Those are the Thursday night hot picks for Ravens Bengals. I'm Pat Mayo.
All right, just a 6-game slate of fantasy baseball tonight. Short, but very, very sweet. Makes my mouth moist just thinking about it.
Gross. So Greg Ehrenberg, DK Live, and Action Network's Matt LaMarca here to talk about it. The baseball, not Emerson's saliva. We'll just move right past that. We're chasing and fading. Matt, first to you. It's worth paying up for Clayton Kershaw tonight at the Cardinals. He's $11,900. What do you think?
I'm going to fade this one. I mean, listen, you can always play Kershaw, right? But I just think he's priced a little bit too high right now. I don't know if he has the upside at 11,900. The Cardinals lineup has been good against left-handers over the past 12 months. 325 WOBA and a strikeout rate of just 20.9%. And Kershaw has really declined in a strikeout department this season. His K per 9 is just 8.78. So when you're paying up that much for a pitcher with that little strikeout upside, I just don't think that's good process. I will probably be looking elsewhere in most of my lineups.
Matt, who's on your wall?
That's the great John Coltrane.
I just, it's important that we educate people on all
No, it's
fronts.
true. I walked close up to the monitor. I couldn't tell who it was, so I wasn't going to point it out, but you did.
No, I don't even hesitate. I want to know. I want to know what we're working with here. Greg, up to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree on a number of fronts. I don't think John Coltrane is all that great. But then also,
Oh, wow.
I also think that you have to play Kershaw tonight. I'm chasing this one, and I'm going to be curious to ask Matt which cheaper pitchers he likes, because the issue I have with not playing Kershaw is that the cheaper options are just really poor pitching choice tonight, and there are some cheaper offense I like on the slate. So I'm going to go to Kershaw just because of how bad I think guys like Despaigne are and guys like Dylan Bundy. So, Matt, who is the cheaper pitching option you like on the slate if you're not looking at Kershaw?
Great.
Definitely not Despaigne. I think you can play Jason Vargas. I think you can play Eduardo Rodriguez. I think if you're looking for a contrarian option, you can go with Dylan Bundy. He does have strikeout upside, obviously a tough spot. I'd even be fine with Brett Anderson against the Orioles. So I think there are options.
One thing, just correct me if I'm wrong, the Mets-Marlins game was removed from the slate because of the weird start times.
That's correct, yep.
Yeah, so we'll just call it like a 5-game
Vargas.
Can you offer an alternative to John Coltrane as well?
Oh, man, I don't think I need to.
No, not you. He's on your wall.
No,
we got the hard fade from Greg.
We
Yeah,
need
we got
one
the
from
fade
Greg.
from Greg.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm just listening to pop music, so I'm going to go with Taylor Swift.
Okay.
All right,
All right.
that means we're going to the next question here. Greg, a lot of bigger names and salaries, but Stephen Piscotty is the best spot tonight. He is in the best spot, rather. Chase or fade?
Yeah, so this is a pretty easy fade for me. It's not that I think it's a bad spot for Piscotty, but 4,900 is just ridiculously expensive for him. And if I want to roster Oakland bats, I would go with any of the 5 hitters who are hitting ahead of him, who, one, I think are mostly better hitters, but are also cheaper. The only hitter in the Oakland offense that's more expensive than Piscotty is Chris Davis at 5,100, but he's well worth that price tag. Just 4,900, especially when I really like Kershaw for the slate, it's too much for me.
Matt, what do you think here? Greg's not going to pay up for him. $4,900 at Baltimore. The dude's been red hot for the A's. A favorable matchup, really, with Bundy. A 13-game hitting streak. I mean, did I sell you here to chase it?
Negative. He's a fade. I don't even think he's in the best spot amongst the A's outfielders. I prefer Ramon Laureano. Batting leadoff, he is 408 WOBA, 318 ISO against right-handers over the past 12 months. And he's hitting the ball in the air right now, 48% fly ball rate over the past 15 days. You can't hit home runs if you don't hit the ball in the air. So I really like Laureano here.
All right, well, with the Rockies not on the night slate, Twins-Royals, that's the game to stack tonight. Matt, what do we think? Run total, projection, 9.5 runs. It is the most on the docket, but granted only by half a run. Most of these games are sitting at 9.
Yeah, I think you could do worse. Like, I definitely like the Royal side, especially if you're going to be looking to roster Kershaw. But if you're not, I think the A's are the top target if you're looking for a more expensive stack. If you look at Dylan Bundy's numbers over his past 2 starts, average exit velocity allowed of 97 miles an hour and a hard hit rate of 57%. Those are just awful. We already mentioned Piscotty and Laureano. I think you can add Chapman, Olsen, Chris Davis, and go with a really nice A's stack tonight.
Greg?
Yeah, so I think the A's make sense, like Matt said. In terms of the question, I'm going to say that I think that both teams are good stacks, but I'm fading this because my favorite team to stack that actually does work with Kershaw, surprisingly, is if you look at the Red Sox offense with Mookie Betts out, there's a lot of value there, and they're pretty cheap. We've got Ian Kinsler batting towards the top of the lineup. Mitch Moreland is not all that expensive, 4,100. Then we've got Eduardo Nunez in there, Blake Swihart. So you could actually get these bats around 4,000 and fit them in with Kershaw, and it's not too tough of a fit, and they are projected to have the highest implied run total of the night.
Hey, guys, quick question on Facebook. Is Chapman a good option against Bundy, you think?
I love Chapman. And if you want to have the same lineup as 9,000 other people tonight, do exactly what Greg said.
Oh, all right. It's okay, Greg. Shake it off.
Well,
shake it off. Just a little
Dylan.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, Dylan, the same guy who just asked that question, also
a Taylor
says,
Swift fan?
Yeah, Taylor Swift rocks. So you're not alone there, Gregory.
No.
Well, we would both love to play some Tears of Joy with you two later in this perfect program, so please hang tight. We'll do some over-under with the NFL guys in just a moment.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. When Amari Cooper came into the league, the Alabama product was billed as one of the next great wideouts. And upon arrival, he looked to fit the part too, as he posted at least 70 catches and 1,000 yards in his first 2 years in the league. Last year, however, Cooper was more bust than boom, as his receptions were cut in half and only managed 680 yards receiving. After watching him in week 1, where he was able to come up with just 1 catch on 3 targets, it looked like Cooper is staring down the barrel of that same mediocre fate. But all is not lost just yet for Cooper, as John Gruden has taken notice of the minimal production. After watching the game back, the Raiders head coach admitted that Cooper was open, they just couldn't get him the football. Gruden said, quote, "He was open a couple of times, and for whatever reason, we didn't go that route. Yeah, we want to get him going," unquote. Cooper is priced in at $6,600 for Week 2 slate, and while Denver does sound like a tough matchup for him, the Broncos did just allow nearly 300 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns in Week 1. If Gruden puts an emphasis on getting Cooper the rock, this could end up being a strong play in Week 2.
All right, welcome back. Time for some more NFL talk with our panel. We got Reed Fowler back, Matt Friedman's back of Action Network fame. Trust us, he's on the app.
Yeah, he is.
Guys, we're going to go over-under here, some wide receivers. The idea, will these players hit these stat lines, okay? The first one, and I care about this a great deal because he's on my season-long team, Reed. Amari Cooper, 15 fantasy points. What do you say?
I mean this with all sincerity because I'm a Raiders fan as well. I say under. And what scares me is not so much the talent. Yes, we've seen that he can't necessarily catch the ball, and that's his job in the NFL. But it's really Derek Carr's production. His average depth or average air yard completed last week was 3.9. His average last year was 8. So not that bad last year. But what scares me is Amari Cooper's production against Denver. Denver's got a stout pass defense in terms of their rush and their secondary. It really funnels towards the tight ends against Denver. You want to play Jared Cook and those guys. So Amari Cooper, his best line was 4 for 39 and a touchdown against Denver. He really doesn't do well against the secondary. And you go to Denver in that altitude, might be tough. On a short week, I'm going to say under in this one.
Reed has been aggressively trying to acquire Amari Cooper for me in a trade. I think he's just trying to buy low.
I really think he is. Multiple times. We're all in the same office.
On Cooper?
Yeah, I'm right there with him. At Labs, we have him significantly projected for the under. He's not getting the target volume. He's not as efficient with his targets. As Reed mentioned, he's playing at elevation early in the year, so he might not be as conditioned as he would be if he were in Denver later. And he's facing a tough Broncos defense. So, yeah, significantly on the under.
Well, you both upset me a great deal.
Hang in there, kid. Corey Davis, he will, the Titans wideout rather, go for 15 DK points. Reed?
I'm going to say under as well here, just because if you look at, I mean, yes, I mean, the narrative of the target share being there, especially with Delaney Walker being out, you saw 13 targets in that 900-hour game against Miami last week. But Delaney out, the target production, really in this case, should go to Dion Lewis, in my estimation. Like, Corey Davis is still going to get his, but the Texans have a healthy defense and should be up in this game. So, yeah, it does mean that the receivers or the passing game should be prolific or should have more production, be on the field more, or that game script narrative should go to pass. But Houston's defense, again, is quick. They have Tyrann Mathieu in that secondary. They have a healthy defense. And so you think, with that being said, we don't know if Mariota is healthy. Davis is dealing with a hamstring issue. He's practicing, but still, it should be in that wide receiver 2 mark. And so I'm going to say under, just because that Houston defense, to me, is pretty good.
15 DK fantasy points over or under for Corey Davis, Matt. He had 6 catches on 13 targets last week.
Yeah, it's like Reed has my script over here.
That wouldn't shock me. He's been accused of that multiple times by other analysts on this show.
Although he spends so much time talking about how smart he is.
We're on the under, but it's still relatively close. As Reed mentioned, 13 targets last week. He could get more with the loss of Delaney Walker, but the 2 significant injuries there. Davis is dealing with a nagging hamstring injury, and then Mariota is dealing with the elbow injury. There are several ways in which this could go wrong, and really only one way in which this could go right, so I'm betting on the under.
Hello, Jeff Ulrich. How are you, Jeff? Welcome to the program, Jeff.
Terrible takes for going on with Reed. So I had to
please save the program, big guy.
David Ulrich just weasel his way into a conversation that's already going on.
Jeff, or do you gonna poop on him again this week?
Poop? I'm not pooping on anyone. What are we talking about?
All right. Well, let me go ahead and let me bring you up to speed here. We are not talking about pooping on anybody. Will Titans wideout Corey Davis go over or under 15 DK fantasy points, Jeff?
Well, with Blaine Gabbert, he's definitely going to go under. I mean, look, Marcus Mariota, I wasn't big on to start the year. I mean, he's got 5 interceptions, 3 touchdowns his last 6 games. People keep waiting for this connection to happen. I just don't see it. Now he's coming in like semi-injured with the hamstring, so I would take the under here. I assume that's what these other guys are saying already, but I'll just pile on, I guess.
I don't know. I haven't been listening.
Yeah, well, they did both go under, although I think it's a little disingenuous that you came on and immediately insulted their takes when you didn't even know what they were. You just assumed they were bad. By the way, we'll just very quickly mix this in. They both went under 15 on Amari Cooper. You agree with that?
You know, Amari Cooper's interesting. I mean, the coach speak is they're trying and get him involved more and move him around more. It didn't work out the first game, but I kind of trust John Gruden more than I do Jack Del Rio to maybe actually figure this out. He does have a bit of a subpar quarterback problem, but I'm going to go against the grain here and say he actually does something this week. I know the matchup says don't do it, and you know, history says this guy maybe isn't quite as good as we think, but I don't know. I just maybe I'll just keep chasing him like some people do, but I do think that this might be a spot where we finally see a decent game.
Well, hopefully he's a better coach than he is a GM. One more of these guys. Look at this. Also on my team. I swear I didn't come up with these guys. Josh Gordon, TD last week, 10 points for the Browns, sir. 10 points. What do we think? Over, under? Reed.
I'm going to say over here. The reason why is, yes, you have Marshawn Lattimore probably shadowing Josh Gordon. Yes, you have the PPR king in Jarvis Landry getting those targets. But when Gordon is out there for virtually all the snaps, now, miscommunication, I find it hard to believe this guy was going to play in Pittsburgh. Josh Gordon is in a prime spot. Look at this Saints defense. This, again, you can't go off of week 1 to be like, this is going to be the rest of the season. This defense was really good last year. We saw, obviously, they had some holes last week, but you had Deshaun Jackson, you had Chris Godwin, and you had Evans all nab a touchdown in this game. That's what you need with Josh Gordon. He's not necessarily going to get the target share that you see Jarvis. He could easily be the 3rd or 4th guy behind Njoku, Duke Johnson, and Jarvis, but that top touchdown upside is so it's so prevalent for him, and the Saints defense have given up touchdowns, obviously. So I'm gonna say over here.
Matt?
Yeah, you guys don't really even need me on the show because Reed is basically saying everything that I'm going to say in advance.
Come on, Reed.
I'm definitely going over. I'm a Gordon truther. He's so explosive. He's playing at the Superdome, a.k.a. the Coors Field of fantasy football. He's going against a defense that just hemorrhaged 48 points to the Bucs. And Hugh Jackson has said, I mean, speaking of coach speak, Hugh Jackson, so who knows what we should believe, but Hugh Jackson has said that Gordon will be targeted more this week than he was last week. I definitely want all of the over.
So Reed is a take thief. Jeff, would you like to poop on this pick?
I do, actually. I just look. Hugh, I mean, Matt just nailed it. Hugh Jackson, like, should we be trusting him? No. And then it's the week 1 overreaction thing here. I mean, all of a sudden the Saints are like the worst defense in the league. Everyone had them hyped as like a pretty good defense before. It's 1 week. We saw the Saints start 0-2 last year, and then they actually came on and were like a top 10 defense by the end of the year. Marshawn Lattimore is a very good player. I don't know. I'm going to take the contrarian approach again, I guess. I think the Saints bounce back at home, and I think Marshawn Lattimore has a really good game. I agree with Matt, too. I mean, Josh Gordon could certainly explode past this to 25 points or something, but I don't know. I think you're going to see a bounce back from the Saints here. Their defense is not that bad. I mean, no one is that bad, so.
Hey, guys, checking out some of the questions coming in on our Facebook video right now. Jeff, Jacob Hernandez wants to know, how about playing Michael Crabtree tonight?
Michael Crabtree, I mean, it's a really tough matchup. Like, the Bengals secondary is pretty underrated. Will Jackson's really good. I mean, whatever matchup he gets, it's not going to be ideal. So I'm not really big on the Ravens receivers at all, personally.
Reed, Adam Moy wants to know, Joe Mixon, will he be a stud tonight?
A stud, probably not. The Ravens defense is pretty stout. He's gonna get more shares. I mean, again, if we're talking like Jeff and Coach talk, Marv Lewis and these guys want to feature this guy quite a bit. So the opportunities will be there. It's just production probably won't be.
And Matt, Jack Smith coming in, Joe Flacco or Andy Dalton, but you picked Dalton earlier, did you?
Yeah, I'd go with Dalton there. But I mean, it's close, but I'd go with Dalton.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Stand by for some more fun a little later in the program.
In the meantime, training camp's opening in the NBA in a couple of weeks, so it's a good time to sandwich in some hoops news, right? Especially when there's a big injury or two. Tyler Sullivan has the details in his latest Fantasy Flash.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The NBA season is right around the corner, but a couple of the league's biggest stars might not be ready to go when the 2018 season tips off. Thunder star Russell Westbrook underwent arthroscopic surgery on his right knee that is said to keep him out all of the preseason and possibly the first few games of the regular season for OKC. Westbrook is coming off another season where he averaged a triple-double and was second only behind LeBron James for most DK points per game with 57.8. If he's forced to miss time, Paul George, fresh off his mint new contract, should see even more scoring opportunities. Elsewhere in the association, Suns star Devin Booker is also slated to miss about the same time as he underwent hand surgery. Booker was just outside the top 20 in DK points per game last season with 39.5, and in the early parts of the season with Booker sidelined, Phoenix may be able to show off #1 overall pick DeAndre Ayton.
All right, well, let's keep the basketball conversation going with Karin Phillips from the New York Daily News. Good to see you, buddy.
Good seeing you.
I like that shirt. We'll get into some season-long draft strategies since those are quickly approaching.
Yeah, very fast. Russell Westbrook is going to miss the preseason, possibly some early season games because of that knee. Does that impact where you take him in season-long drafts? I mean, where should he go, you think?
He should still go at the top. I know this injury is scaring a lot of people because when we think about Russell Westbrook, we think about the way he plays. This is no disrespect to Russell's basketball IQ, but this is a guy who we've known since high school, UCLA, and in the NBA, has always just been this explosive, uber athletic guy that no one can contain and no one knows what to do against. Like, we've never had to see him like break down a game or a team or defender with his mind out of like a LeBron, how he's out there playing chess. So I get why everyone's a little weary of Russ. However, would you rather Russ come back and look like Russ and you didn't take him, or you'd rather have Russ on your team and live with him not having as good of a season in the past? Because realistically, his numbers probably wasn't going to be the same as they were the past 2 years. Paul George's going to have a bigger role with Melo gone, and since they got Dennis Schroeder, that guy likes to chuck up his amount of shots as well. So just in terms of points, just off the logistics of the guys they have on that team, it was going to take a dip. So why not take Russ?
Are you saying, though, or at least alluding to the fact that not that Melo had great production last year by any stretch, but just maybe the nature of this injury and how he may get off to a little bit of a slow start, that overall production for him for the year could be down a little bit? Sure, he's still worthy of being a top pick or top few pick, but the numbers could be not quite, I don't know, averaging a triple-double?
Yeah, like, let's think of, we've only seen that twice in, like, the last 60 years, so.
Both times by him in back-to-back years.
Yeah. Unless the idea that's going to happen 3 times in a row wasn't going to happen anyway. So this is less about life and new teammates and the fact that you just can't be Superman 3 years in a row rather than Russ falling off. But you definitely still take him as high as he is. Spend all your money on him because I would definitely take Russell Westbrook first if he's up there.
All right, Karan, how about Devin Booker? He's out 6 weeks for hand surgery. That should impact the start of his regular season. What's that do for his average draft position?
Now that's going to drop, and this is the one that kind of worries me. I'm a huge Devin Booker fan because that guy just flat out gets buckets. But this is his shooting hand. And Devin Booker, while he's a pure scorer, he is a deadly pure shooter. So when shooters, a lot of that is based off rhythm and muscle memory. And when you're out with a hand injury, yeah, you can run on a treadmill and you can do other stuff, but he won't be able to shoot for a while. So he's probably gonna drop. His price won't be as high as it usually is, which kind of might work out for some people because he might be a steal. So if you can see Devin Booker and he's available, I would take him. He's not going to be eligible at the beginning of the year. He might get off to a slow start, but middle and the second part of the season, that investment is probably going to come back to you.
Well, so obviously, though, when it comes to DFS, he could be terrific second half of the year, but season-long draft position, you think he can drop a couple rounds?
Maybe 1 or 2, but we're talking about D-Book here. Like once Drake once Drake puts you in a song, like you're good for a while. So
Drake, he raps about me all the time.
Did it have anything to do with him scoring 70 points on the Celtics?
Well, fictional 70
he only had
game.
like 2 3-pointers that game, which is like the craziest stat of that night.
I was there at the Garden that night. That was quite insane.
Stupid performance. All right, Lakers coach Luke Walton, he hinted at reducing LeBron James' minutes to keep him fresh. He played 37 per during the regular season last year when he carried that Cavs team, 42 on average in his 22 playoff games, so they worked him into the ground. If you're thinking about drafting the King early in the first, as most would fewer minutes give you pause at all, or maybe the surrounding cast that he's going to have working with him could impact that?
Like it's supposed to. Like this makes sense. It sounds good right now. I'm still taking LeBron any chance I can get and spending my life savings on him because he's still LeBron. Like the Sports Illustrated Top 100 list came out and he was like #1 again, and no one's ever been #1 this many times. I think it's 6 times at this point. But we heard this in Cleveland with Ty Lue, right? And then that one crazy year, David Blatt was there. And now, like, all these coaches LeBron has gone through the last couple of years, even in Miami, back to Spoelstra, we got to play him less minutes so he'd be fresh for the playoffs. But, like, this guy just never plays less minutes because you always need him out there. And with the team this young, and it's their first year together, and a lot of the guys on this team haven't won that much at the NBA level, I just don't see where it's going to happen. Do I want it to happen? Does he deserve more rest? Yes. But is it going to actually happen? When you're trying to fight and scrap in a Western Conference, it's going to be actually like Jumanji this year. That thing's going to be crazy trying to survive and be one of the top 8 seeds in that division.
Well,
or that.
I mean, Ankar, it's the one thing that you're not saying, which is Luke Walton doesn't decide how much LeBron plays. LeBron decides how much LeBron plays.
Yep.
If he wants fewer minutes, he'll play fewer minutes. If he wants to play what he's been doing, he'll do it.
Exactly, and that's the point. While Luke Walton, I'm a fan of him. I think he's a really good up-and-coming coach. And you want to, this young team have to say so that the guys will listen to you. But you're not telling 23 to have a seat when he doesn't want to have a seat.
You didn't seem too impressed with him mentioning Walton as a good up-and-coming coach.
I'm not as enamored by Luke Walton.
Okay.
I think that year could have gone 35-0 or whatever with the Warriors. Let's see what he can do when he's got some real talent on this Lakers team.
All right, Karan, it's time to let you go. We don't want to, but we have to. I will say this for everyone at home. Karan will be on our football show on SNY on Sunday as well, 11 o'clock Eastern time. So all our friends in New York and New Jersey, tune in to that.
Tune in.
Be good. We'll see you again soon, dude. Up next, though, we'll hear from Pat Mayo. He's looking at running backs in the 5K range for this Sunday's slate.
Thompson kind of worries me in the same sense as we talked about Ajayi a little bit because he is in a split. He's not the goal line back Adrian Peterson is, who's even cheaper, coming off a really big game, and people are all fired up about that. Now going up against Indy at home as a favorite. Game script you would think would play into his favor here to at least see more snaps, more touches. But We saw this last season with Adrian Peterson. He would have one of these huge volume games, do really, really well, and then he would be a disaster for like 3 weeks in a row. Do you believe in Adrian Peterson in this spot? Because I think a lot of people are going to go back to him.
I believe in Adrian Peterson in basically this spot alone. And I think this is going to fall off a cliff very, very quickly. You're absolutely right, Pat. Very dependent on game script, needs the volume. I think you've got about one more week of that. And then when the schedule starts to turn and, this guy who's, I don't know how old he is at this point, starts to wear down, I think it's going to fall off a cliff for Adrian Peterson. So he's got about one more week for me. I think this is it. What are they? A 5.5-point favorite at home against Indy. This is basically it. I will be on a week-by-week basis for Adrian Peterson, but I'm not optimistic, but I am this week.
All right, so who's the better play? Let's say Fournette sits this week. Is Yeldon a better play against the Patriots, or is Peterson against the Colts? I think you can make an argument for both, but I think the floor for Yeldon in that situation would be better just because of his involvement in the passing game.
I probably agree with that. I would have leaned Yeldon. That New England rush defense did not look good last week. We've seen Yeldon be somewhat productive in the past, right? When he's had to fill in before. So this is I think that Yeldon gives you a better combination of being game script independent, right? You don't need the game to go exactly as scripted for Yeldon as we would for Adrian Peterson. So yeah, I think that's a safe bet. And obviously all this assumes, Leonard Fournette doesn't suit up. Yeah.
If Leonard Fournette suits up, you just don't use either one of them because then you're going to have no idea. Because Fournette's going to do that thing where it's like, oh, Leonard Fournette's playing great. And he ends up like playing 4 snaps. And he's like, oh, my hamstring hurts again. It's like, oh, great. And then for whatever reason, Corey Grant's in the game. And you're like, this is just a disaster. So if Fournette plays complete stay away, I will play Yeldon for sure. I would even play him in cash if need be, unless you want to dip to someone lower. But there's other guys in this $5,000 area too that could see over 70% of their snaps. We saw 2 of them last week. Dion Lewis and Kenyon Drake are 2 of them. And they walk into matchups that are not great, but they're not porous either. So, do you have more faith in a Lewis or Drake? Because it would be Drake for me, but I still don't know if I want to take him against the Jets, only because there just might be better options around here. Like Shady's right there as well, and I'm just throwing week 1 out for that.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point because there's probably a lot of stuff from week 1 that we might just want to throw out, like that Tennessee-Miami game. The Saints defense is probably not as bad as they look. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can probably look at week 1 and be like, all right, we're gonna get back to normal here. But to get back to it, I mean, I think Drake is interesting. I tend to lean when I get down here. I'm looking for significant upside. Usually, you find that with pass catchers because of the PPR format. So I lean towards someone like Dion Lewis. I guess it's a little bit dependent on who's starting at quarterback. Blaine Gabbert, if he starts, they're going to be behind like this entire game. So you would assume that Dion Lewis is going to be catching a lot of passes. He's going to be racking up those PPR points. So I might want to wait to see who's actually going to play this week for Tennessee. But as of right now, I still think Dion Lewis is the guy.
Last 2 here. If Freeman sits, would you go to Coleman against a stiff Panthers run defense? Because I would think about it, but I still think there are better options in this area.
Yeah, I would not. I'd even go down to someone like Carlos Hyde, right? I mean, what was that? You don't like Carlos Hyde?
No, I was just I didn't even really think of Carl like that. That seems like, I know he played a ton of snaps last week, but that game was Pittsburgh only got up by 14 very momentarily. Then the game got close again. If the Saints get up big in this game, doesn't this seem like a situation where he could be written out and there's just a lot of Duke Johnson?
Yes, I think it is we're going to find out how good this Saints defense is, right? If it's anything close to what we saw last week, Carlos Hyde can be involved in a big way. If it is what we kind of expected, 2 weeks ago, where they're more stout, yeah, this could be a Duke Johnson type game. So I'm willing to move a couple of chips for $4,500, open up a lot of that flexibility at other positions to grab Carlos Hyde. Or he's not 40, he's 4,900 this week, excuse me.
All right, welcome back. Reed, Jeff, and Matt here with us again. We just can't seem to get rid of them. Time to rock a little NFL price check, fellas. Determine if some salaries are too high, too low, or just right.
Yeah, just like little bowls of porridge.
Just like Goldilocks. From one G to another. Let's talk Jeff. Deshaun Watson, salary down $400 after a terrible performance versus the Patriots. It was bad. It was ugly. It was also the first game back from the torn ACL, so we'll cut him some slack. But is 6,300 too high or too low for Watson versus the Titans?
I mean, I guess I'll say it's just right. It's not, I mean, the salary didn't go down that much, right? So he's still over 6K. I don't think he played that bad against the Patriots. I think the Patriots just played really good defense, quite frankly. And maybe getting Matt Patricia out of there is an upgrade or something. But, I think this is a huge bounce back spot for Deshaun Watson, quite frankly. He torched the Titans for 4 touchdowns last year. And the key this week to me, he might get Will Fuller back. 7 touchdowns with Will Fuller in 4 games last year. I don't know. I really like this spot as like a GPP play for Deshaun Watson. I think a lot of people are just going to go off him here, go to like the more sexy picks like Patrick Mahomes, who I still like, but I think it's a bounce back spot. And I think the salary is fine. I mean, you're getting a bit better price, but it's not like a overpayment or anything if you're looking at him.
Reed, are you also comfortable praising the Patriots?
Yes.
All right. What do you think of Watson? Come on.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. It's just right, and this is really based on his value too. Jeff's right. I think could be a sneaky GPP play, and if you want to stack Watson and Nuke, that's not going to be sneaky because those are really good players. Look what happened last year. The same thing Jeff was saying. Nuke, went off on this guy, and obviously, with that being said, you would think Watson would do well. What Jeff didn't mention to add to Watson's upside too is his rushing ability. He also scored a rushing touchdown in that game, so you like where he's at. This defense doesn't scare me on the other side of the ball. So, yeah, I think this is a good price for him.
Matt, I'll be honest, I don't like these push picks. Too high, too low, or just right?
I think it's a little bit too low. I understand the concerns with him, but he's the highest rated quarterback if you adjust for salary in several of the models at Fantasy Labs. And one thing that the guys haven't mentioned, which is a small wrinkle, but I think significant nonetheless, is that the Texans are going against their former defensive coordinator in Mike Vrabel. I think if there's anyone who should be equipped to exploit the holes in Vrabel's defense, it would be the guys who just worked with him. So, I think this is a little bit too low.
Reed, why aren't you taking why aren't you taking Vrabel into consideration here?
She's not as smart as Matt.
All right, well, I just wanted you to admit that, so we could go to our next question now. Top pick, Todd Gurley, seeing his salary fall $400 as well, even after putting up almost 27 fantasy points against the Raiders, but now he has the Cardinals. How do you feel about 9,200? I'll start with you, Raiders fan Reed.
Well, I think this price is I think it's too high for him. I think not too high, too low for him. I think you have Kamara there at the top at 9,400, and rightfully so. This guy really shelled out, and obviously he's going to outperform whatever price tag you have on him. But when you look at Gurley and his pedestrian over 100 yards against the Raiders team, now you go to a Cardinals team that really didn't show much, especially against Adrian Peterson, getting 96 yards on the ground, who's nowhere near Gurley's talent. What I will say, though, on that opposite side of the ball is David Johnson is virtually going unowned, untalked about, and he could be in a prime spot. He's game script-less. Unless they're getting blown out, they might just rest the guy. But he's going to be in there quite a bit. And I don't think that you're going to see a lot of ownership on David Johnson. But for Gurley's sake, I think that price tag is fine.
Matt, how do you feel about Gurley's price tag?
I mean, it feels wrong to say that someone who's 9,200 is too cheap. But I think that's, if I had to lean one way, that's the way I'm leaning. He's expensive, but he has the highest projections in the Labs models, and he's a massive favorite at home. At this point, we're projecting for maybe 12, 13 points. That is a huge favorable situation for any running back, and then especially someone like Gurley, who doesn't really have a lot of depth on the running back group behind him. So I think it could be a massive performance for him going against a defense that, just got its lunch eaten by a guy who's 33 years old and another guy coming off of an ACL tear. So, I like Gurley a lot. I think this is just a little cheap.
Matt, or not Matt, but Jeff rather, Matt saying that $9,200 feels a little wrong, saying it might be a little cheap. What do you think about this price tag?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a little higher too. I mean, it's just such a good spot. I mean, whenever you have a big favorite like that, you want to target the running back, especially when it's a player who never comes off the field, like Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley ceded 1 carry to his backup last week. So this is an every down player. There's not many of those running backs left in the NFL. I really could see him more like the 9,800 range. Now, Reed alluded to it. It's an interesting spot to go off them and maybe take the passing game of the Rams, because they do have an implied team total of 29 points. It could come through the air and maybe go with David Johnson on the way back, right, for a stack. But it makes a ton of sense to take advantage of this price, because it's not too expensive for a player in this spot, and especially of his caliber for Todd Gurley.
All right, Jeff, I hope you're not too tired of talking, pal. I want to hear about Mike Evans. He was a monster opposite the Saints, 7,300. He's up $600. Too high against a tougher Eagles defense, though?
First of all, I'm never too tired to talk. Just keep throwing stuff at me. I'll say something. Right? So,
well, I mean, hell yeah, you joined us late. You know, make up for lost time.
I mean, I was so... Anyways, let's talk about Mike Evans. 7,300. It all comes down to what you think about Ryan Fitzpatrick, in my opinion, and this Eagles defense. The Saints had no pressure on Fitzpatrick last week. I think the Eagles' front seven will bring pressure, and I think that's going to change the dynamics of the pass game a lot. So if you look at the strict secondary matchup, it's a good matchup for Mike Evans. It's probably better than it was last week. The Eagles' secondary isn't that good. They just gave up a ton of yards to Julio Jones. I think the Eagles are going to bring pressure. I think it's going to be way tougher for Ryan Fitzpatrick to complete some of these downfield passes, and I think this is too expensive. I don't know if that's the popular view or not, but that's the one I have right now.
You're popular, pal. That's enough for me. Matt?
I can confirm.
I'm going to say that this is just about right, maybe a little high. The Eagles' defense is good, but the secondary might be the weakest part of that defense. And Evans he's so talented, he's volatile, so you could see this going any direction. But he's one of just 3 players in NFL history to have 1,000 yards receiving in each of his first 4 seasons.
Reed?
Yeah, so for me, it's gonna be too high. I'm gonna make it a clean sweep here. I think what Matt was saying, the cornerbacks and the secondary. Look, Evans was sort of a question mark coming into this, and Godwin really had the red zone efficiency over Evans from last year. And if you look at the secondary for the Eagles, Jalen Mills is a guy that you really want to attack. He's 69th or 70th, I believe, in Pro Fantasy Focus rated quarterbacks. Gives up a lot. We saw what happened with Julio Jones, and most of those big plays were against Jalen Mills. So if you see Evans potentially moving to the slot, which I don't think he ever does, this could be a Chris Godwin game. At 4,600, only in GPPs, could be a nice pivot off of him, but I can see why you'd want to go. He did well. He did decent, 4 for 63 and a touchdown last time he went up against Philly, so he has some success. I just don't see it at this price tag, though.
Okay, guys, Jordan Reed's salary soared $1,000 after he scored in the season opener. Is $5K reasonable for the tight end in week 2 against the Colts, Jeff?
I just feel like this is too much. You know, he's only $2K less than Gronk, but the thing about Gronk is he's the focal point of the Patriots offense. When you look at the Washington Redskins, you know, you have Chris Thompson, Adrian Peterson's going to get some carries, and then you also have like 3 wide receivers who could get involved. So yes, it's a good matchup. Yes, he started well, and yes, he looks healthy, but you're paying pretty big premium for him now when, you know, the ball could go anywhere for Washington. So I prefer paying down. I like just going to George Kittle or someone a little bit less expensive personally. I think this is a little bit too expensive.
Matt, how do you feel about $5,000 for Jordan Reed? And if you don't like it, maybe give us someone you would spend that kind of cash on?
I'm actually fine with it. Okay. I think he was too low last week. He has the 4th highest salary on the slate, and he's probably the 4th best tight end on the slate. He misses games, but when he's healthy, he's great. He's healthy now. And in his 4 years with head coach Jay Gruden, he's second only to Gronkowski in fantasy points per game. The Colts entered the season with Pro Football Focus's worst secondary in the league, and I don't think they have anyone who can actually stick with Reed. And I'll disagree with Jeff. I think he is the focal point in that offense. Like we've seen him in previous seasons, when he's healthy, he's been the most targeted guy on the field. I think that's going to continue.
You gonna take that, Jeff?
No, I think Chris Thompson's the focal point of the offense, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Good comeback.
I think it's a little bit weird for a backup change of pace running back to be the focal point of an offense.
Yeah, I do too.
Backup.
Wow.
Yeah, he is, because your boy Adrian Peterson. Man, what a value.
Who
this is
more points, Adrian Peterson or Chris Thompson last week?
Wow. That doesn't matter. We're focusing on this week. Adrian Peterson, $5,500. That seems like one heck of a value right there, if you ask me. Yeah. Hey, Reed, real quick, $5,000 for
value.
$5,000 for Jordan Reed. You like that, or would? Let me see. Would you rather
Easy, Kirk Cousins.
pay down for? Let's see, Jimmy Graham, Evan Ingram.
I mean, I think 5,000, like any price tag is potentially too much for Jordan Reed because he could go out in the second quarter with soft tissue, with a toe, with whatever it could be. But I agree with Matt here. I think Jordan Reed is a focal point of that offense. I like when anyone disagrees with Jeff. But what scares me a little bit in terms of his production, or it could be a benefit, is Vernon Davis saw about 59% of the snaps. So you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets in Washington. If it means that they're going to block more for AP, what have you, Vernon Davis is someone that you could potentially plug and play, because if he's going to see 60% of the snaps and he's, I think, priced at $3,300, much cheaper, with tight ends, I'd rather pay up for Gronk or whoever's at the top there, if it's Kelsey, whomever, or go way down and bargain bin, because you've got a guy like you got Njoku too going against the Saints, and what we saw last time over there with Cameron Brate and OJ Howard and these guys, they perform. So there are cheaper options, but I do think Jordan Reed, when he's healthy, you got to play him.
Wait, real quick. Go ahead. Can I see all 3 of you guys for a second?
Oh wow,
I just want to explore. I don't even want words. I just want to explore this Adrian Peterson 5,500 super value thing. Can I just get a nod or a shake?
Yeah! Hey, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, that's not
Ain't
bad.
that bad.
That's Hall of Fame.
Real quick, though, we do have some extra time, so I'd like to spend a few extra minutes with you 3. Let's talk maybe some top stacks this weekend in the NFL, or even if you want to give us a contrarian one. Jeff, who are you looking at?
Sure. I mean, I talked about, maybe the obvious play in Kansas City and Pittsburgh, but let's go down to a little bit lesser owned one. I think the Detroit San Francisco game is something that could just get sloppy and turn into a real fantasy bonanza, if you want to call it that. But I like a bounce back here for Jimmy Garoppolo. George Kittle, 9 targets, led the team last week. And if you watched the Detroit Jets game, you saw Detroit just give up a ton of yards, a ton of short catches to Quincy Enunwa. I think George Kittle is going to be used in a similar role. So pairing Garoppolo with Kittle and then bringing it back with a guy like Kenny Golladay, who's under 5K, played the most snaps of any Detroit wide receiver last week, and is probably going to have the better matchup on the non-Richard Sherman side. So I like that stack as a bit of a swerve play. Should be lesser owned than maybe that Kansas City Pittsburgh game.
Reed, you got a stack that you're liking for this weekend?
Yeah, I like the Houston stack with with Nuke and with Watson. I think that's going to be a prime spot for these guys to really get on the page. Going against a Tennessee defense that doesn't scare me. We saw it last year after the Texans played the Patriots and then played Tennessee. They had a really good game, both of those guys. Another contrarian one I'm looking at too is going with that Colts-Washington game and Jack Doyle and Andrew Luck. This guy, I mean, Jack Doyle is his target. He's out there for the majority of the passing down dropbacks from Andrew Luck. So if you want to go with a potentially contrarian stack, I don't think people are going to look to that Washington-Indy game just because it's not one that you necessarily want to watch. That could be a contrarian one as well.
Matt, you got a contrarian stack for the people at home?
No, I tend not to be contrarian.
Cool. Give us a stack you like, though.
Because I think
Matt actually makes money instead of just wasted on horrible plays like me.
Because I think you can be chalky enough in your big stacks and then differentiate your lineups by going with one contrarian player who still might have some upside. And so I think if you game stack some of these big games that we've talked about, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and I do like some of the contrarian stacks the other guys have mentioned, but Cleveland at New Orleans, I think that will be a high-scoring game. And then you can add in 1 or 2 players who will have lower ownership, and I think that could distinguish the lineups instead of stacking in a situation where you're going for guys who will have lower ownership, but I think also have significantly capped upside.
I like Matt for that reason, because he's different. He's not like everybody else.
He wants to make money.
Yeah, he does.
That's pretty similar to everybody else. But he doesn't want to take you down with some foolhardy picks. Reed, Matt, get on out of here. We're going to move on to pucks next because we
what
promised
a treat.
we would. Yeah, we're even going to let Jeff stick around because, he's in Canada, so he obviously just must know about hockey, right? Big moves. Erik Karlsson sent to the Sharks. Full rebound underway, or rebuild, I should say, underway in Ottawa. Jeff, San Jose has another all-star. That's terrific. What's the fantasy impact, though?
I mean, it's good things for the San Jose power play, and Brent Burns was already there. They brought in Evander Kane. I mean, Logan Couture, Joe Pavelski. You're talking about an all-star squad at this point. So, I don't know how it's going to work out long-term for them just as a team. I mean, it's a lot of money to invest just in your defense, quite frankly. But yeah, for fantasy purposes, I mean, I look at this as a net bonus for a guy like Brent Burns, who's a real he's a big goal scorer as it is without Erik Karlsson. Now he's got one of the top playmakers on defense to play alongside him on the power play. So I think it's a net positive for a guy like Pavelski and Brent Burns, who's probably going to get, a few more decent setups as the year goes on.
Well, I was just going to ask you that. Are you going to put those two stud D on the same power play? Or are you going to separate them just to stack your lines?
I would be shocked if Burns and Karlsson don't play a lot together during the year. I mean, it just makes sense, right? With the power plays, and the penalties and the way the game flow goes in the NHL. I mean, most teams try and get their top line out for like 90 seconds of a two-minute power play, right? So I think you're going to see a lot of Brent Burns, Karlsson together. Now, I'm not obviously in tune with exactly what the team's going to do. The trade was today, but if it does spread out and they decide to split them for some reason, you're going to have to take a second look for fantasy because it may impact, the upside of one of them.
Well, I think those two are going to be together a lot like Jeff does, but what I'd like to see.
Go ahead, tell me.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see the 4 forwards and then 1 D, 2 lines, stack them, just bury that puck, man. You could do that. You can get out there, you can get aggressive, you can pinch, you get 2 offensive-minded defensemen. Whatever, we can talk about this later, Jeff. He's bored by it. It's okay.
Thanks,
Coach.
Right.
I'm just glad that he's getting the hell out of Ottawa. It's time for a change of scenery for that family.
Speaking of change of scenery, though, Jeff, how about Chris Tierney in Ottawa? Put up 17 goals, 40 points last year. Should get more of an opportunity to shine for the Sens, right?
Yeah, Chris Tierney, I mean, he was more of a role player with San Jose. I mean, he's kind of drifted between their first and third lines. He got a little bit of opportunity. He was pretty solid last year. I mean, had a bit of a breakout season. I think it was 40 points, around 17 goals, if I remember correctly. But I mean, he's going to get opportunity with Ottawa, and that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, the opportunity. He wasn't going to get first-line minutes with the San Jose Sharks. So now you're going to a much weaker squad. Ottawa is obviously in full, fire sale rebuild mode here. Chris Tierney is a player you're going to want to keep an eye on during training camp if you're big into NHL DFS, because if he does get some first-line minutes right off the hop, he's going to be interesting. At a depressed salary, I mean, Ottawa's going to be in shootouts most of the year, I assume. I don't know if they're going to be able to score well at all, but he's a player who could make an impact. I don't see his upside as being huge, but for fantasy purposes, again, it's all about opportunity. He might get it this year.
Jeff Tyler Seguin signed a huge extension with the Stars, 8 years, basically $80 million. A sick Mario-themed video by Dallas on Twitter,
phenomenal.
By the way. If
whoever
you
their
have not
graphics
seen that,
person,
awesome.
Whoever their graphics person is, deserves that same contract because that was phenomenal.
Definitely give him the 9.8 per year. Earned it, absolutely. All right, so just I know this doesn't really affect fantasy with regard to he's not moving. You're not seeing a change to the lineup, but is he going to stay just as motivated, just as hungry after cashing in?
I mean, it is kind of a worry with some of these younger players when they get paid. Seguin had some issues, starting off in Boston, as you guys probably remember. At the same time, he's been very consistent over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I think he's either first or second in points, goals ever since he came to the Dallas Stars. So his production really shouldn't be questioned at this point. He's done it for, like I said, 3 or 4 seasons in a row now. I'm not too worried about that. I think what I'd worry about from a Dallas Stars fans' point of view is, where's the rest of this team? They don't really have good bottom 6 depth. Their defense is not really deep enough to take them anywhere. It's a good investment in Seguin. You got to pay your stars, but they have to start building from the back end here because they're kind of wasting one of the best players in the league right now. So they improved in the goalie position, I guess, but until this team develops some of those other positions on their team, it could hurt Seguin in the long run. So it's something to look forward to. If this team starts to corrode, you could see Seguin corrode with it.
All right, Jeff with the G. Toodaloo, man. We're going to miss you.
Have a great day, guys.
Hey, thank you.
Too, man. Thanks.
Canadians really are the best.
Yeah, he's not usually that kind, though.
No, he's not.
No,
that's why I know he was faking it.
No, it feels good.
Let's see. Also, Aiden, our graphics guy, right off camera, was just saying if the graphics person for the Stars gets $8 million a year, like Seguin,
where's his Mario video?
He's going to demand it as well. So just a heads up, DraftKings definitely want to pay this kid
or cut him loose.
Let's welcome back in DK Live's Greg Ehrenberg and Action Matt LaMarca of the Action Network. Time to make us cry. Time for tears of joy.
It's been so long we've talked to these guys. It's darkened.
Yeah,
Matt's room now.
that always happens for whatever reason. It must have something to do with the sun.
Yeah.
Matt, who's your guy in tier 4? Matt, do you have a light or something you can put on you? Because I can't even see your face. This is brutal. I can't even hear you either. There you go.
I'll work on it for next show, but I don't have light. You know, when we lose the sunlight outside.
What about your cell phone? Light your cell phone up and put it underneath you.
Looks
Okay, I
like
can try that.
People at home have.
Anyway,
looks like a minor right now.
I'm going with Chris Taylor. He's on the positive side of his batting splits against Austin Gomber. Is this any better?
Yeah, that is. Hey, Halloween's right around the corner.
When you're done with this take, could you tell us a ghost story?
Sure. But anyway, good numbers against lefties. Excellent recent StatCast data. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Yeah, man. It reminds me of the old Nickelodeon show, Who's Afraid of the Dark. Okay,
Tales
Greg.
from the Crypt.
Greg, hopefully a more well-lit Greg. Yes,
there he is.
Who do you like in tier 4, dude?
Well, first off, if somebody doesn't take the clip of Reed saying that he's not as smart as Matt and isolating it and playing that as an intro every single time that he comes on, it's a massive lost opportunity.
We'll put that on our graphics guy, Aiden.
So for me, it's Matt Olson in this tier. I know that Matt said that he liked him earlier, and I do think he makes a lot of sense. Dylan Bundy has not pitched well recently, an ERA of almost 9 since the All-Star break. He gets hit especially hard by left-handers. And Matt Olson, park upgrade, I think there's a lot of homer upside for him in this tier.
All right, Greg, looking at tier 5 here, take your pick. I mean, you got Brock Holt, Ian Kinsler, so a couple of Red Sox, Justin Smoke, Mitch Moreland, another Red Sox, Matt Carpenter, Cedric Mullins, Marcus Semien, Adam Jones. I mean, it's a big crew. Who do you like?
Yeah, so give me Kinsler here with Mookie Betts out of the lineup. Kinsler's moving up to the 2-hole in the lineup. He's struggled against left-handed pitching this year, but he's done really well against righties, surprisingly. 118 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. So it's really the platoon advantage for Kinsler here. So give me him in an advantageous lineup position.
Matt, let's check you in. Matt, are you still there?
Still here.
Can we see
Find
Matt?
some new lighting.
Yeah, let's go. No, it's like you have a lamppost outside your window.
I gotta find a solution. Anyway, I really hate this tier, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of any of these guys. I think if you are gonna play a Red Sox guy, Kinsler's the way to go. He has the highest projection at Fantasy Labs, but I personally just think he's toast at this point. So even though he's going against Kershaw, I'm gonna take Matt Carpenter. Even though it's a lefty-lefty matchup, Carpenter still has a 374 WOBA, 264 ISO against Southpaws over the past 12 months. Nobody's going to play him, so I think he's probably my favorite option in what I think is a pretty weak tier.
Quick, just make one shadow puppet. Only one.
All right.
I don't have that in my arsenal.
That's a little dog. Yeah, there you go.
Let's go to the lowest of lows, similar to your lighting. Tier 6. Have at it, Matt.
This is going to be my Red Sox spot. I like Jackie Bradley Jr. here. I know he's hitting in the 9-hole, which is not ideal, but if you look at his numbers over the past 15 days, he's just smoked the baseball. 53% hard hit rate. He's exceeded his 12-month average distance by 33 feet. Gaviglio has been rocked by left-handed batters all season. He's giving up a 364 WOBA to lefties, so I think this is the one Red Sox I actually feel best about playing.
No, your pick is fine. It's your lighting that's not ideal.
Greg, who do you like? Any chance you're going Steve Pearce over JBJ here?
Well, here's the issue with this tier. Almost none of the guys are actually playing tonight. We've got Steve Pearce isn't in the lineup. Cody Bellinger isn't in the lineup. Joe Mauer isn't in the lineup. Kike is playing, except he's probably going to get pinch hit for because there's a million people on the MLB.
So JBJ it is.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm going to go different here. I'll go with Jorge Polanco.
Okay.
He's leading off, so it's a better lineup spot. But we really don't have a lot of choice in this tier because none of the guys are actually playing tonight.
All right, well, we'll
Great.
deal with
All
that
right.
later.
Before you guys take off, hit us with your slate-approved picks. Greg, right back to you.
Kershaw.
Excellent.
To the point. Matt?
Light it up, bud.
Ramon Laureano.
Quick, one ghost story.
You gotta
there was a guy with a hook for a hand. Have you heard this one?
I feel like I'm at camp again. It's terrific.
All right.
Let's make some s'mores and hang out later.
Lights out. Nope, lights out.
What's
Sorry.
the by the way? By the way, what?
Reed saying that he's not as smart as Matt Friedman is not really a bad thing because Friedman's maybe the smartest human being I've ever met. The guy has like 7 PhDs.
No,
So-
it's really more that Reed is obnoxiously cocky.
I believe it though. You can see where Matt, like he's in a room where only smart people would sit.
Yeah, I mean that most home offices don't look like that.
No, dude.
Mine
they
does
do
not. Mine is like posters on the wall.
Mine's just my dinner table.
Yeah, see?
Wonderful job by the both of you. Well, maybe not so much Matt, but tonight, thank you for joining us and Godspeed to both of you.
Buying a lamp.
Yes, please do, dude. They're like $5 at Home Depot.
He's like Brick Tamlin. Loves
Just
lamp.
put it on the DK tab. Did you learn anything?
Yeah, the Matt needs lighting.
Yeah, man, me too, man. That's exactly what I learned.
That's the big takeaway tonight.
Yeah, and Adrian Peterson is one hell of a value play.
Yeah, 5,500. Don't miss out. it's huge. I didn't hear about Tyler Eifert. I had a big fantasy decision to make, and I didn't really hear much about him.
Yeah,
so I guess they don't love
you should
to
have
play.
asked.
Well, it's you know.
There was someone asked about it on Facebook too, but it was a little too late.
Was it me?
No, unless it was your burner account.
Yeah.
Dude. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. I believe you're back here tomorrow.
Yes.
All right.
Tune in.
You and Glasheen tomorrow?
Who knows?
That's true.
Just don't follow him on Twitter. He wants it too badly.
See you guys.
Bye.